anything you think about could become your reality. And so I think it's just it's a mindset for most people. Would you say it's just, I mean, is this
Absolutely.
what you see throughout your time, that it's just the mindset that holds people back?
Well, and that mindset can change in an instant. In an instant, you read the story of I don't know how much of this is true, but this is pretty powerful. This old guy, he was 65 years old. He got his first retirement check. It was like $130. He was depressed, decided, you know what, I'm done. I'm checking out. This is all I have to show for my life. And he went and he got a piece of paper and he was writing supposedly his last will and testament of why I need to check out because I failed. And as he was writing it, he was writing all the things he should have done in his life. He's 65, right? Shoulda. And one of them was, I have this amazing recipe that I never used. I never created, never did anything with it. And he thought, you know what? I still can. This recipe is for chicken. This was Colonel Sanders, 65 years old, broke, right? By the time he was 80 something, he's a billionaire. So it's never too late. It's never too late. All you have to do is have that mindset change and somehow that motivation that drives you. And you've got to find something that I tell guys and my young entrepreneurs, I said, guys, if you're waking up to an alarm clock, you don't have a big enough dream, right? You've got to have something that just motivates you. Your eyes wake up in the morning and you're like, yes, I got it. I'm going to hit this thing. I'm going to roll. You've got to have it, whatever that dream is. It's okay. It's okay to want a nice house and nice cars and nice planes and everything else. It's okay. However, for me, I used things, cars and vision boards and all this stuff. I used things to motivate myself to do the right thing long enough for me to realize the right reason to be doing it. And the right reason isn't things, it's making a difference. Now, it's okay. Still have a beautiful lifestyle. But if you get to that point and you are not making a powerful, positive impact in the lives of others, then everything else won't matter and you will be miserable. So make sure that's part of your equation from the beginning.
Beautiful. Well said. All right, $20 million, you sell your company. What do you do with $20 million? Kind of walk. I want you to, this is Wealth on the Beach podcast. So I want you to walk me through a little bit of like, what does somebody do? You get $20 million on your lap. What do you do? What's the next thing you do?
Well, I was 29 and first things first, it wasn't 20 million cash. I wish it was, it was 20 million on paper. And to me, that was success at the time. Right. And it was restricted stock in a company, OTC cash exchange company. I didn't know that world. I thought, oh, look how rich I am. But really now I had some cash, enough to work with and to make a difference. And I started investing with that cash that I had in real estate. And then I realized that I didn't know shit about real estate. If I didn't hire smarter guys than me, I was going to lose all my money in real estate. I was doing spec houses. I was doing all this, stuff that I thought the world would be perfect forever. And the company that had bought me out was having some issues with purchase order financing. They were buying products from Asia, and they needed to be able to float that until they had their delivery to like a big box store, Best Buy, whatever else. And so me and a business partner, John Pennington, started a company called Bridge Loan Capital with some of my money and some of his that did short-term bridge loans, asset-based lending. And we were lending on he knew how to make sure I didn't lose a container full of iPods from one country to another and make sure that we got paid. But we were charging a pretty good return. It was funny. I was how I actually got into that. I had a friend that was he was in charge of the counting the money that was donated from our church at the time in our congregation. And he said, you know who the richest person in our neighborhood is? I said, who? I mean, we had some big houses in our neighborhood. And he told me about this guy. I said, really? He said, he makes 10 times more than anybody else. I said, well, what does he do? He said, he's a fund manager. I said, well, what's a fund manager? I had no idea. So I said, I said, what's a fund manager? He goes, well, this is a guy who he takes some of his own money and then he takes other people's money, puts it all together and invests it in things. And then he makes money not only on his own, but he makes money on other people's money too. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea, right? And so John and I started putting together this fund, Bridge Loan Capital, that put a bunch of different investors together. And I remember in the beginning, people ask John now, they say, John, did you see it? I mean, the company when I retired was over $10 billion in assets under management. It's continued to grow. I'm still an owner, still a founder, and it's well over 48. They ended up being taken over by a public company and stuff that I had nothing to do with, but billions and billions. And people asked John, they said, did you see that in the beginning? He said, no, but Paul did. He said, we'd be in this little office. It was so small that we would bump elbows turning around, right? And he said, we'd be making calls and we had a project we needed like $25,000 by Friday. And Paul was calling, getting people to match the money he was putting in, et cetera. And he tells a story. He said, Paul would hang up the phone. He'd turn around, put his pinky by the side of his mouth and say, John, we're going to be $1 billion fund sometime, right? And John said, Paul, we need $25,000 by Friday, right? The difference between that 25,000 and billion with the B was too much to fathom. But again, just like my wife saying, hey, I want to be a 49ers cheerleader, my ex-wife, she just had to visualize it and see it. And I visualized and saw us being a company like that. And then at the end of the day, I remember John said to me, he said, Paul, he said, you know that with you being a University of Utah dropout, he said, even with my credibility, I don't have as much. He said, we don't have the background, the credibility, the pedigree to run a multi-billion-dollar company. And I said, yeah, John, but if we build it right from the beginning, build it with integrity, build it with a platform that can grow and expand, we're going to attract the right people. And literally within 3 or 4 years, neither John nor myself as the founders, neither one of us were qualified to be the CEO of our own company. We were bringing in $300 million checks from Morgan Stanley. I didn't even qualify to be in some of those rooms, right? But we had JD MBAs that worked for us as we were building this massive enterprise.